Face. I'm Kim Kral. I am reporting to you not live from my closet. And I am sitting here with a very lovely, funny Katy Dolle. Hi, Katy.
Hello.
How
Hi.
are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you. We did kind of a pod swap a couple of days ago. So I'm going to be on Katy's podcast, and now she's here on Crawling Up. And we have similar podcasts in the sense that we both talk about mental health and kind of our own journey, and we talk to other people about theirs. Your podcast is called, I almost said Crawling Up. That's so funny. I'm so hot already, guys. You all know it. Like, all my listeners know how sweaty I am. And I'm like, oh God, the summer is happening too soon. And I'm like, can't concentrate.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a mess in the summertime, like a mess. So here we go. Okay. So it's called Crying Behind Sunglasses. And you started that right as the pandemic started too. Is that correct? Did I see that?
That is on the money. Yeah. So last year, I had the idea for the podcast back in like 2019, and then I didn't get the balls to do it until I made a New Year's resolution in 2020. Like, okay, this is the year I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And previous to Crying Behind Sunglasses, I actually co-hosted a different podcast called Kings of Influence. And that was with two fairly famous YouTubers, Ray William Johnson and Epic Lloyd. He's the guy who does epic rap battles.
Oh, I know. He also owns what's it called? The West Side Comedy Theater. Is that
he
correct?
does? Yes.
I love that guy. That guy is super.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love that guy.
Yeah.
So you did a podcast with them.
I co-hosted with them, and that's kind of how I caught the bug, you know, because not to toot my own horn, but no one ever told me I had a face for radio. You know, there was just like,
because it's not true. It's not true.
But I was like, oh, I really like talking to people every week and getting the feedback from listeners and like getting to kind of explore these other sides of myself. So when that podcast ended, the listeners were like, what are you doing next? And that's kind of how my idea for Crying Behind Sunglasses came around.
Okay, because it's about mental health. So that's a passion of yours. What made you decide to do that? Because that sounds like it's completely opposite from the Kings of
Influence.
Thank you.
So their show, they ran it their own way. I was just kind of like, you know how Howard Stern has Robin?
Yes.
Commenting on the side. That's kind of what my role was in that show. I wasn't really driving the conversation or choosing the topics.
Okay.
So since I had a chance to do my own thing, I kind of brainstormed everything that I'm passionate about. And I don't like doing things just for the sake of doing them, or art just for the sake of art. I like doing things that can really make a difference. And my entire life, I've always been really passionate about mental health care in general, just because my brother has autism and I grew up around him going to therapy, whether that was like behavioral therapy, speech therapy, etc., and seeing how that made a huge difference in his life. And also just kind of defending him from people who might be bullying him or making fun of him for being different. And then once I got older, I realized that I also had my own stuff going on with anxiety and panic attacks and that sort of stuff. So I had to also, go on my own journey and figure out how best to take care of myself. And now I feel like I can really share that with others.
Can I ask you too, like you said, when you were younger, you were always taking care of him. And then when you got older, you were like, oh, I found like, because when you grow up with a brother that has autism or a brother, a sibling that requires extra care, you don't really have a chance to like look at your stuff because you're dealing with you're the caregiver kind of. Is that sort of why when you got older, you were like, oh, I have it too. Not autism, but like I have mental health issues.
Sure. Yeah. I think that there is a very unique situation that not a lot of people can relate to when you are the sibling of someone who has a disability. And it's like, I love him. He has contributed to my life in so many ways. People have asked me, do you wish that you had a quote unquote normal sibling? No. He is a gift.
People ask you that?
Oh, yes.
Okay. That was not going to be my question. Cause it's like, maybe when you were a little kid, someone might've asked you that, but you're like, no, I like him. We're close. What? That's okay. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I didn't anticipate that was your question. I was just kind of throwing that out there as I've thought about that, and I've asked myself that question, like, what would my life have been like? And the answer for me is that like we have such an amazing bond, and I've learned so much compassion and empathy from being his sister. You know, I would trade that.
Yeah. Is he older or younger?
He's exactly 18 months older than me. So we're Irish twins, as they say.
What is Irish twins? Where your mom gets pregnant back to back, right? I've heard
Right.
this, and then
I mean,
I've asked people, and they're like, we don't. No one ever can answer it for me. No one knows.
Okay, well,
But I
we're
guess
not actually Irish, but the term I think just means, like you said, I mean, my brother was only 9 months old when my mom got pregnant with me, so it was just like bam, bam. I was,
Ugh.
you know, so it's fine. I mean, I'm
You know,
fine.
oh, for her. Like I've never had a baby, but like everyone I know who's had babies, it wreaks a havoc on your body. So to like do that
Oh, yeah.
back to back. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
that's
we were both C-sections, so I can't even imagine.
oh,
But yeah,
okay.
so I guess me growing up with him, it was interesting because even though I was technically younger, I always felt like I was older because he didn't talk until he was 4. There were a lot of different
Oh,
things that we had this weird connection, almost like twins do, where I could understand what he needed and what he was kind of feeling. So a lot of times I found myself communicating for him uh,
yeah,
when he
okay.
was really little. And
That's a
I think, yeah, I don't know. It's just, it's a weird thing that happened, and not in a bad way. It was just like we had this connection, you know?
yeah, yeah. That's a lot of responsibility young though for
It
you,
is.
right?
It is.
Yeah.
And I was kind of forced to be very independent and very much like, okay, yeah, Katie's the normal one. She's fine. When I was younger. And then,
Mhm.
like you were saying, yeah, when I got older, I think, and I got to be out on my own and not so much around him or my parents, I could kind of really see whatever was going on with me
Mhm.
and focus on that a little bit more.
Yeah. And that's when you found out you were like, oh, I have anxiety. I have depression. And honestly, you know what? I think like I grew up with a cousin who was never diagnosed. She's bipolar and was never diagnosed. And my family just sort of pigeonholes everybody. Like I was the dumb pretty one, right? Like
Okay.
my other cousin was the smart one, and this one was like, well, she's kind of a bitch, an 8-year-old. Like my
Wow.
family would just be like, oh, she's not nice, she's kind of a bitch. And then she grew up and she was like, oh, I'm bipolar. Like no one like, hi, no one. And that's kind of why I wanted to do something like this too, this kind of podcast, because it was like, she finally got sorry, my breathing is all over the map all the time.
That's okay. I know that you have the whole like long
Oh,
COVID situation that you're
COVID.
dealing with.
Yeah. And today's the first day of my period. I just looked at myself in the thing. I'm like, I promise I'm not sunburned or whatever. Are you judging me for my bright red skin?
I can't tell. You just look tan. You look like you just got back from a tropical vacation.
Oh no, this is literally sweat. I have no idea what I'm going to do. The ice pack is melted, guys. It's been in here 5 minutes. Fuck. But yeah, like, and then she grew up and she like got diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And so this woman and child had to grow up with this alone, essentially.
Yeah.
And then once she got older, and so I wanted to start this because one, I honestly think everyone should go to therapy. I think being a human being is rough and our brains will break. Like I struggled with depression.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to kill myself. So I knew enough about it that I told literally anybody who would listen that I think I'm going to kill myself. And I was trying to get into a doctor, and I did lose friends, but you know, in the end it was like, okay, well, those people weren't real friends.
Yeah,
But
you don't
then
need those people.
No. So so is your brother your only, it's fun, guys. She and I literally met on Clubhouse like 2 weeks ago. So this is my first guest on Crawling Up that I don't know very well. I did her podcast a couple of days ago, and then I binged her podcast, which is great. You should check it out. Crying Behind Sunglasses. We'll tell you where you can find all that in the end.
Yeah,
But
it's like everywhere you can listen to podcasts. But yeah, I mean, I'm a woman of mystery. I'm an open book. You can ask me whatever you want.
yeah. So you when did your brother get diagnosed with autism? Because I know some kids never do. Because parents are like, I have a friend who a friend of mine, we think our other friend's kid has autism. And we've thought that since he was a little boy, and she works with autistic kids, but our friend like refused to look at it. It was just like, no, he's fine. He's just weird. And it's like, well, you're going to hurt him if you don't.
Yeah.
Like, it's not something that's going to ruin his life, but if you like get him the help he needs, the care he needs, he can enhance his life. And so how old was your brother when?
He was very young.
He was diagnosed?
Because my mom was
Oh.
very proactive in trying to figure out what was wrong with him. Because at first they were like, "Is he deaf?" Because if you would clap your hands behind him, he wouldn't react. Or they couldn't figure it
Oh.
out. They were guessing a lot of different things. I think by the time he got diagnosed when he was 2 years old, and
Mhm.
I was 6 months old, which
Oh.
was pretty rare in the 80s to get diagnosed that young. But my mom was just super proactive, and I think she took him to UCLA, and that's where they diagnosed him originally.
Oh yeah, you're from LA.
Yes, yes.
So you're an actress too. You're an actress, improv, comedian. And how did that happen? Sorry, everybody I know from LA, like who's from LA, just wants nothing to do with the industry.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would say, so I was born in San Diego. We moved to LA when I was like 5. So I don't really tell people I'm from San Diego because I didn't grow up there.
Yeah.
But I remember just from a really young age, I think the first time my parents took me to New York when I was 9, I saw a Broadway show, How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, with Matthew Broderick. And
Oh my God, really?
I know, right? Like, what an intro to theater.
Yeah, Matthew Broderick. Like and this was 9. I don't know if you put your age out there, but like you said, 80s. In the 90s.
In the 90s at some point. I honestly don't remember what
so
year
like
this was.
Peak Matthew Broderick, like when he just did like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and all that stuff.
Yeah. So I saw
that's
that.
Very exciting.
And I remember my dad loves telling the story because we were in the second or third row. We were very close. And the curtain went up and I saw all the people singing and dancing and my jaw just hit the floor. And I was amazed. And I don't really sing and dance that much, but I just loved the performance and entertainment and the comedy and everything. And so after that, I remember I just my great aunt, actually, on my dad's side, is she was kind of like the Marilyn Monroe of the 30s and 40s. She was a very big singer and actress. Her name's Constance Moore. She was still around when I was really young. So I remember I was like, I want to be like Aunt Connie. I want to get an agent. I want to be in the movies. And my parents, like you said, they're both LA natives. They were like, absolutely not. You are a smart girl. You are going to stay in school. We are not letting you do that. We don't want you to end up in rehab by the time you're 14.
Yeah, that sadly is part of the story sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't blame them at all because growing up in LA, I also got to know a lot of child stars and it can go a lot of different ways. You really don't know whether or not it's going to be good. So, I went to theater camp. They were like, you can do it as a hobby. We'll send you to theater camp, but you got to just stay in school and do your thing. And then I think by the time I was about 15 or 16, I had worn them down to the point of no return. And they also figured I was like old enough to make my own decisions. So they allowed me to go out and get an agent and start doing that stuff. So
at like 16,
15. Yeah.
15. Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
So I started doing commercials and TV in high school. Just because I was playing soccer and I was on the school newspaper, but at some point I was like, okay, I can either go to auditions after school or I can go to soccer practice. Let's play the odds here. Am I actually good enough at soccer to go pro?
Yeah. Which one am I going to do forever? Yeah. Do I?
But like acting, this is something that I'm actually good at. So yeah, I remember my first real job. It was a Sylvan Learning Center commercial.
Fun.
Yeah, I did that. And I remember it was funny because it was like a national commercial. And so I had moms coming up to me in the grocery store being like, hey, is that place good? Should I send my kid there?
I love that. I did voiceover for Norm's restaurant. Yeah. And so many people asked me questions about Norm's. I was like, I don't work for Norm's. Like, I'm not affiliated with Norm's. I just have the voice that they use for their commercials. Like, I've never even been to Norm's. And everybody was like, oh, really? So they don't, okay. Like, they were like way put off by it. I'm like, do you think that's so funny?
So with mine, I feel like it might be a little different because the way they filmed it, it was as if it was a testimonial. I mean, clearly I'm an actor.
Oh.
Like, I used to freeze on tests, but Sylvan helped me change that, And so they show me like not doing well on tests. And then they show me like bringing home my test and showing my mom. And then all these other activities I get to do because I'm a good student now, so like, I could see how if someone doesn't understand how commercials work, that they might think that I was a real client or
that you were just doing a testimonial for real. Got it. So you said you grew up with like celebrities too? Can I ask you those stories?
Oh, absolutely.
What's your favorite one?
I mean, so I went to school. I'm trying to think. I mean, probably the most famous people I went to school with the Olsen twins. They were in my grade. And Ashley was like besties with the girl who lived down the street from me. So like I saw them around a lot. I also went to school with Denzel Washington's kids, Alex Trebek's kids. Yeah, I mean there were a lot, but
the Olsen twins.
Yeah,
that's so funny. The Olsen twins.
Yeah, they're a big deal. And Elizabeth Olsen, as she's known now, I used to know her as Lizzie. She was like a few years younger than us. She went to the same school. I didn't really know her that well, but she was around.
Oh my God. I have a friend who the Olsen twins are like her weird nemesis. Nemesis. She used to work at, she used to do all the big clubs in Hollywood when it was like big club town, right?
Right.
Because it's not, I mean, now obviously it's not, but like before the pandemic, I feel like the cool kids didn't really go to clubs anymore anyway.
No.
Or maybe I'm just old now and I don't go. So maybe everybody stopped, right? But she used to work like the big clubs and would like, move from whatever the hip club was. So she like had a lot of encounters with the Olsen twins. She's never told me why she doesn't like the Olsen twins. She just goes, the Olsen twins.
Interesting. Well, I don't have bad blood with them at all. I'll put that out on public record. I will say the girls, like, okay, let me backtrack. I'm going to backtrack to my side of the story here. So
cool. I can't wait.
I grew up in LA. I was a total nerd brainiac. So I went to like a little elementary school for highly gifted kids called Merman, and it's still around. And it's just like basically all nerds. Like everyone there is there because they have a high IQ and whatever, so it was kind of like a great little safe haven where nobody really makes fun of each other because everyone's a nerd and everyone's got a rolling backpack and glasses and is taking Ritalin, like it's just, that's the vibe.
Yeah. That's a nice vibe for nerds. I feel like
it's great.
Yeah.
It was super good. And it was nice because they would nurture you in your specific talents. So like, I'm not great at math, but I'm really good at English and vocabulary and stuff like that. So I would be advanced in those areas in literature and history. Or if there was a kid who was really good at math, for example, like I was learning algebra in 5th grade. And this kid who was 7 years old as a whiz kid was in class with me just because they were good at it. So that was kind of cool. So I leave that environment and I switched to this other private school, Campbell Hall, which at the time, I'm sure maybe it's better now. It's been a long time, but at the time, the academics were not very good, but it was like a hub for a lot of rich kids or celebrities' children, stuff like that. So I switched over there just because the other school only goes up until 8th grade. And I also was like, oh my God, I need to be in a place that's more social. I feel like even though I'm smart, I'm a little bit more outgoing than these kids. So I switched to this other school and it was really bad because I switched in 8th grade and this other school I switched to, it's a K through 12 school. So a lot of these kids knew each other from when they were really young. And I'm like the new kid on the block. And I had immediately gotten cystic acne and braces.
No, when you first started your very first school, when it was like super cliquey and a rich private school at boot. So like to boot. So it's also, oh no, cystic acne and okay, keep going.
Yeah. So it was just really like, this is a really bad moment. And there was only one girl at the school that I actually knew. And she was my neighbor, same age as me. I've known her since I was 6 years old. We weren't best friends, but we were like neighbor friends. We would have sleepovers here and there. Yeah. And I carpooled with her. And I remember, and I'm sorry if you're out there, I'm not going to name you, but this was a bad move on your part.
You're listening. She's my number one fan, probably. So she does not miss a crawl space.
So her older sister would drive me and her younger brother to this school. And I remember we got there the first day of school. She pretended she didn't know me. She didn't introduce me to one person, and she was one of the popular girls. And
wait, hold on. So you carpooled to school with her?
Yes.
And then she got there and just left. Yeah. And you were like, oh, okay. And then pretend you were like, hi, Sarah. And she was like, no, I don't know. Her name's not Sarah. I don't know her name, but
it's like that Mariah Carey thing. I forget who she was being asked about on the red carpet. She was being asked about some really famous singer. And she was like, I don't know her. Like that was kind of the vibe I got from this other girl. And you
were in 8th grade with braces and acne.
Yeah, so I was set up to fail from moment one at this school. And
I just want to hug 13-year-old Katy so bad. It
thank you.
sucks.
It was a bummer. So um I was still very outgoing and friendly, and I wanted to like make friends. So I was, really, I joined the cheerleading squad. I was trying to play soccer. I was like trying to do as well as I could in all the classes. And the Olsen twins were part of the popular crowd. And like I said, I don't really have bad blood with them. It was mostly the girls that were surrounding them that were vicious and terrible and awful, if that makes any sense.
Well, the Olsen twins also were the Olsen twins then. Like,
they were,
like what I mean is that we've watched them grow up. Like we like, so okay. But they were really, so obviously they're popular.
On Full House anymore, but they were doing like all of their straight to video hits,
which we all secretly watched.
Yeah. Like Passport to Paris or like all those kind of movies. They were doing those. So they were only in school a few months out of the year. But it was all kind of revolving around them. I think I was a lot closer to MK than Ashley just because I felt like, I don't know, we just like our personalities vibe more. And I remember we did a group project together. Although I will say she spent most of the time riding horses and didn't really come to our meetings. And so I got us a really high grade.
Wow, MK.
But I'm not going to hold that
fucking
against
her. Wow. I am. I hope my friend who's their nemesis, I guess they're her nemesis because they don't know who she is.
Yeah.
There's some more ammo for you. MK didn't even help on the group project. Wow.
And then Ashley was, like I said, she was best friends with that girl who lived down the street from me. But like, I don't really have anything against her. It was mostly like this other girl who I knew who didn't introduce me to anyone. And then
did you ever ask her though, real quick? Did you ever ask her like one day when you're like in your neighborhood, not at school, and you're like, hey, what's up with that? Did you carpool with her after that? Or was it like,
I carpooled with her the whole time. I think I was just in so much trauma and so self-conscious that it never occurred to me to do that. And I remember after 8th grade, I only had 2 friends in the whole school. One of them had a unibrow. One of them had removable teeth.
I had removable teeth, dude. You and I would have been friends. Like, I was just talking about this on my solo show about how much I loved 7th grade because I was like, man, 7th grade, it was just you, Aspen, and Stephanie. You guys just played your dolls. No one gave a fuck about what you did. You were just a loser, and it was awesome. So we would have been friends because I could remove.
You had the removable teeth. You would have been my buddy. We went and ate lunch together. And then, so it was interesting because I remember I had a she's all that moment because I told my parents after 8th grade, I was like, I hate this school. I hate these girls. I don't want to be here. Put me in public school, please. And they were like, please. They were like, stick it out one more year. One more year. If you hate it, then we'll send you to public school if that's really what you want. So I had a she's all that moment. I went away for the summer, like, summer break. And I got rid of my acne. I took Accutane.
Okay.
Got my braces off. Suddenly, I'm a hot girl. I come back for 9th grade, and all of the girls, including the Olsen twins, want me to have lunch with them all of a sudden.
Wait, hold on. So that actually happened? Like, you can't, first of all, every ex-nerd, including myself, is like, that's just unfair. By the time I got cute, damage had been done. Like, no one was like, hey, Kim Kral's cute now. It was like, yeah, but she's still, right? So, but like 9th grade is the time that you get to come back and look. And then they were like, did they remember you? Were you like, yo, I was friends with the girls with the unibrow and the no teeth. Why are we, what happened to the girls with the no teeth and the unibrow? Were you just like, sorry, suckers, it's high school, man.
So I kind of was upset because I was like, if you didn't like me at my cystic acne and braces, then you don't get to be my friend at my new hot girl face.
Yeah, good for you.
That was my feeling. And so it just made me more mad and made it feel more fake because I was like, okay, well, this is just verified how superficial this whole situation is. Right.
Yeah.
So I still ended up leaving that school. I didn't tell anyone I was leaving.
Even your unibrow and no teeth friend, I'm gonna think about them for a long time. What happened to them?
I'm friends with the unibrow girl on Facebook. She no longer has a unibrow. She's married and has a child, and it seems very happy. So
I wonder who finally told her about the unibrow. Who finally was like, "Yo, you should do something about that." Like, I wonder Because like I was like you, I wouldn't have taught, like I wouldn't have confronted the neighbor. I would have just been like, well, I guess this is just the thing. Like I wouldn't have.
Exactly. I don't know who told her, but bless them, you know.
Yeah.
Some people can pull it off, you know, but
Can they?
I've seen I don't know her name, but there is like a supermodel who has a crazy unibrow. And I think the only reason she can pull it off is because she just looks like a Greek goddess and then happens to have a unibrow.
I'm going to Google her. I would like to see the unibrow. Okay.
She can pull it off, but.
So you went to another school. You went to public school.
Yeah. So that's the extent of my story. But what's the kicker and what is really funny is that in 9th grade, I remember one of my only friends at this point is now my fiance.
Oh, how long have you been engaged for?
We've been engaged for like 2 or 3 months.
Oh, okay. It's new.
Just happened. But we we were friends in high school. We met in biology class in 9th grade. And I remember he was like he was a year older than me. So he was just kind of like an older brother buddy figure. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, like we lost touch because there was not really any social media back then. And then we got in touch after college. I think he found me on Facebook, and then we were best friends on and off since our 20s. And it didn't get romantic until the pandemic. So here we are.
Really? So you guys didn't get romantic and then he proposed to you a couple of months ago. So a year out. So you guys were a pandemic couple.
Yep.
Wow. That's wild. Like right before the pandemic, or like you guys were just during. Like you're like, we're best friends, want to come hang out during quarantine, and then it got sexy? Sorry.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah,
basically,
really?
Yeah. I mean, we were talking, so like we had both gone through breakups.
Okay.
And we hadn't been talking in a while. Not to air out too much dirty laundry, but just basically like, you know, we had, you know how you go in through different phases of like, sometimes you don't talk to your friend for a while and then whatever. So he was like, hey, haven't talked to you in a while. Sorry for being a shitty friend. How you doing? You know? And I was like, oh, how cool. Like my friend has resurfaced and I also happen to be going through a breakup. It would be nice to talk to someone. Then we were just talking on the phone for like a month because COVID was happening and it was very early on in COVID and it was just like paranoid. And I was like, I don't want to see anybody. Then he told me all his feelings and I was very shocked.
And you didn't feel that way before he had told, like you hadn't thought about it a bunch of times. Like he's had feelings for a long time and you were just like, I hadn't really ever thought about it. But then you were like, huh.
Yeah. It was interesting because his story was, I'm in love with you. I've been in love with you since I met you. And I just never felt like it was the right time. And I didn't want to ruin our friendship. So I didn't want to tell you unless I was like actually gonna like be with you, you know?
Oh.
And that was very sweet. And it was almost like a confession that someone gets in a movie, you know, like, am I in the Notebook? But as far as my feelings go, like, yeah, I had a crush on him in my early 20s. Mm-hmm. But he was always dating girls that were blonde. And I was like, well, I guess I'm just not his type. You know, like, I think I even tried to make a move on him and he was like, no, we're just friends. So
you tried to make a move on him once? Oh my God. I love this story so much. I love this story. Wait, real quick though. You said you only had a couple of friends when you went to your new high school. So even after you like became the hot girl, you went to a new school, you still were like,
when I went to my new school, it was fine. No, I'm talking about, this was 8th and 9th grade when I was at that private school.
Okay. He went to the private school, then not your new school. Oh, okay. That's okay. Cool.
That's why we lost touch. Cause I left.
Cause you left and then you got to go be popular at the public school, as it should be, by the way.
Yeah, no, I was.
I don't know. I feel like once I started getting cute, they should have sent me to another school. I feel like that's what your parents should notice. Like, oh, she's grown out of the weird phase and she has already done all the damage that she can't reverse in her high school. We'll just send her to a new school.
Right, because that's what I would do. No one at the new school knew that I used to be ugly. They were just like, oh, she's cute and she's in a Sylvan Learning Center commercial. Like, we're gonna razz her about it, but we like her.
Yeah. And then you got to start over. That's the dream at that age, especially when you like, I went to college and I got to be cute in college, but it was like real confusing. Like I had no idea how to like behave around males or like what to, like, I was so awkward, but I was cute. Yes. So no one cared. Yeah.
You have to, you know, kind of, get like once you go away from the ugly duckling into the beautiful swan, it can be very awkward. I feel like I'm going to have that same feeling now post COVID, where it's going to be very awkward to socialize again.
Oh yeah. I have no idea how to do it
It's
at
going to
all.
be very weird. Like I have, I think, yeah, I'm 2 weeks post second vax. So now I can go hang out with people outside. And I think I'm going to a picnic with like maybe 10 or 20 people this weekend. And I'm a little bit nervous.
Oh my
I'm like,
God.
what's going to, what's
Oh, I
going
have
to
no idea how to behave around people. I was at Trader Joe's like 3 weeks ago and I like asked the guy, Trader Joe's guy, for something, but I like tripped and then I like giggled, then I turned beet red, then I touched his arm, then went, I'm so sorry. And then I turned around, tripped on myself. And then the guy was like, oh, well, hey, he thought I was like flirting. And I was like, I'm not flirting. I'm just weird. Okay. And then we ran into each other again and I fell again almost. And I was like, I'm really sorry. I don't know. And he was just like, oh, hey. And I was like, no one is interested. I don't know how to be around humans now.
But see, you look like a damsel in distress. You look like the girl in the rom-com who's like falling all over herself and the guy helps her,
Oh, good. Thank you. So it's not like, because in my head, I will always be the kid that doesn't have the teeth, that play dolls like way too long. Like
Right.
In my head, I'm always going to be that person. So when I meet new people and they're like, no, you're like really attractive. I'm like, oh yeah, well, I pooped my pants like 5 days ago. Like for some reason I act that way and I don't know why, but
it adds more flavor,
Oh yeah, I love it. I've made a whole podcast and my career is based on just that. So it's fine, but it's I think even my parents sent me to a new school when I got cute. I would have blown it. It would have been, it would have been scary. It still
the
wouldn't have
damage
been.
stays. I mean, I get it. Like, I think when I was in college, I was not one of the cool kids. Like, there were definitely the favorites at my acting conservatory. I was not one of them. I had like, it's not like I wasn't friendly with everyone. Like, everyone was mature enough to not pull the same kind of cliquey shit they would in high school, but it was very clear who was the most liked or who was getting cast in the most plays or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, my theater, I went to school for theater. Well, I went to a college and it had a theater thing and I was a theater major and they were not nice to me. And my best friend and I were like the cool kids on campus and like the theater kids did not like the cool girls on campus. Cause it was like, we were like the popular cheerleaders who were in theater and they were like, you don't belong here. And they were so mean to us. And it like,
Wow.
I was friends with this guy and we were at a party, we were at like a theater party and he comes up to me and he's like, so I debunked all the rumors and I was like, what's the new rumor? Cause there's just so many rumors, but it was like cooler than when I was in high school, cause I was like, actually like, I was like a popular kid. So I was like, what's the new rumor? And he's like, well, all the theater girls are saying you're a big whore and you sleep around a lot. Ooh. And I was like, yeah, I already heard that one. And he was like, well, I told them I don't want to disappoint you guys, but Kim's a virgin. Kim's barely kissed a dude. And that was the truth, but they didn't believe it. But I don't know. I look back on those as like glory days, like if you have nothing, like even now when people talk about you, it's like you have nothing else to talk about besides what I'm like, I don't.
It's not worth it. Yeah. I think that I was a little bit of a black sheep at my theater program just because I was very interested in film and TV. And a lot of the people at NYU are, at least while they're in undergrad, once they graduate, they realize that like they need to go work in film and TV. But when you're an undergrad, a lot of them are theater snobs. And so they just want to do that. And I was very into film and TV. So I was hanging out with the film students a lot and acting in every single student film that I could. And I think that was not really what everyone else was doing. And so it was a little weird.
Oh, and now look at that. It's paid off though. You're like,
look
I got
at
all
me.
Yeah, look at you. I know. Okay. I want to talk more because we're going to wrap up soon. And I have two very important questions, but I want to talk more about your mental health journey. Like that's why, I want to know your, like how it started, how you finally asked for help. Like, was it a long time where you were just like what, just open up to me. Tell me everything.
So as I think looking back, I could see that I've always had anxiety and panic attacks, but I never labeled it. I was just always like, came from like my mom was always super anxious, like way more so than me. So it kind of normalized it for me. I would always have meltdowns. I'm a perfectionist, that kind of thing. And it didn't really hit me until right before I was about to graduate NYU. And I'm looking down the barrel of a gun, kind of like, oh, I'm about to graduate and move back to LA. And I have no idea what I'm about to do with my life. Like, I'm graduating with a theater degree and I want to go back and get back into acting, but there's no roadmap for that. Right.
Yeah.
And I had made all these friends in New York and I was gonna be leaving them. And there's just like a lot of uncertainty and also like a lack of things left to achieve as
Yeah.
an overachiever. So I had like just a really dark period. And I think also my biological dad passing away, that was another thing too. He passed away at the end of my freshman year, but I kind of buried it and didn't deal with it until later. So
Yeah.
all of it just kind of came to a head. Oh, and my first boyfriend broke up with me a few months before I graduated.
Oh no.
We
Okay.
had been
Yeah.
in a long distance relationship for a lot of the time that I was in NYU, and I was looking forward to us like reconnecting. And like 6 months before I was supposed to move back to LA, he broke up with me. So I was just like, oh my God. So it was just like a lot of different things compounding, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And had a really bad panic attack, which I didn't know what it was. I thought I was literally dying, because it
Feels like a heart
feels.
attack, right?
Yes, yes. And so it felt like a heart attack. I called an ambulance, went to the hospital, and they were like, no, actually, you didn't have a heart attack. You just have anxiety. You had a panic attack. You're going to be fine. You know?
Oh my God, you called oh my God. See, I've never had an actual panic attack. Like I've never had
Oh,
like a real, like
yeah.
a, feels like a heart attack. Everything I've read, it's like you genuinely think you're having a heart attack.
Yeah, no, it felt like I was going to die because it's just your heart is pounding out of your chest. Your breath becomes very constricted. It's very hard to breathe. Uh, you get that tunnel vision,
Mm.
racing thoughts, just a little bit of everything, and if you haven't experienced it to that level before, I've talked to a lot of people with panic disorder and they have the same experience where they're like, oh yeah, the first time I had one, I thought I was literally dying. So yeah, that went through that. And I
Yeah.
remember calling my parents and they were like, listen, you're only like 2 months or even less away from graduating. We don't want you to start a relationship with a therapist in New York and then leave. So they just called in a bunch of pills for me. So
Oh,
I was on, God, like Lexapro, Ambien, Ativan, all at once. So I was just kind of a zombie for the last month or two of my college time,
wow.
and just like kind of getting through. Like I didn't feel as bad anymore, but I also didn't feel anything. So
Yeah.
that
That's
was tough.
scary. Yeah.
It was
I
a
know that
band-aid.
parents do their best. And especially like now having a kid now, things are very different, right? Like now we would do things differently. But, I mean, even like 5 years ago, things with mental health weren't as talked about. And so
Yeah.
just like, you'll be fine. Just take all these pills and then get through it and then come back to LA and we'll fix it. And like,
Yeah. That was the idea. And so then I came back and got with a therapist and tr- stepped down off of the pills as quickly as possible. Not to condemn anybody who takes them. It just for me at that time was not the right thing.
mhm.
So then after that, I would say for at least a few years, I was just so afraid of my own feelings that I just kind of threw myself into a toxic relationship and didn't want to think about it, if I'm
Yeah.
being totally honest. And I don't think that I fully dealt with all of it until I left that relationship at age like 22, 23.
And
And
all of it, you mean the ex-boyfriend breaking up with you, your father passing away, the panic attacks, the anxiety, all of it just came to a head once you, wow, okay.
yeah, well, because it was just, I was so afraid. Like, I think I had this feeling that I was damaged
Mhm.
and that I could never really be amongst the normal people. So I'm just going to like hang out in this relationship and have a very mediocre life and not try to achieve too much, because if I have too much pressure placed on me, then I might, uh, have a meltdown again. And I was so scared of that. Right.
Especially like how scary the first one was.
Right. So I think that once I kind of struck out on my own, then I was forced to deal with it and go into like more real therapy and get into meditation and working out and journaling and really just facing everything instead of sweeping it under the rug or being afraid of it, because I think the biggest thing for me was to not be afraid of my own feelings and to say, okay, you know what? What's the worst thing that's going to happen to me? Like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to die from this. I'm not actually I don't think I've had periods of depression, but I wouldn't say that depression is the main thing. The main thing for me is just the anxiety and the panic attacks. And so it's like, am I going to die from that? No. Is it wildly uncomfortable? Yeah. But I need to learn the tools to deal with this because it's not going away.
Because this is part of my makeup. So,
and also I deserve better. I shouldn't just hide and not try to do all the things I want to do in my life because I'm afraid. So yeah. And then I would say, as far as being open about it with other people, that was a different journey, because even though I was my close friends and anybody who I was dating, of course, would know about it. And I would tell them yeah, okay, I have this thing. And a lot of times if I feel anxious or overwhelmed, I might need to leave the room, or these are certain things that trigger me, etc. Right.
Mhm.
But I felt like I was projecting this image on social media that wasn't totally me, and that I wasn't being open about it. And I felt very self-conscious about that. So I think when I was doing that other podcast, the first one, Kings of Influence, we would talk about stuff occasionally and be a little bit more open about it. And I saw that it really resonated with people. So I felt more safe to start dipping my toe in the water and writing about it on social media and talking about what it's like to have anxiety and the things that I do to feel better, or that it's okay to have days where you don't feel okay. And I found that it really touched a lot of people, and there were way more people than I realized that are also suffering from these things. And so I felt okay, I really want to dedicate my life to just erasing the stigma around this and making it okay to go get help. Because for me, finding good therapists to help me with my journey has been so important. And also just having being able to be open with other people also is really important, because being alone in this kind of struggle just makes it worse.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody today about how open I am with my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I just think if I was how much further I would be if I heard someone like me when I was 22.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Someone like me that was hey, this happens. You're not alone. This is what I did. I just think I know I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm there's no regret there. It sounds like there is, but I just think if I could just help one 19-year-old girl who are man, doesn't matter, right? Person. And just go, oh, we can talk about this. Oh, because I didn't think I could talk about most of this stuff. And when I went into my depression, I knew enough about mental illness that I was I know my brain is broken, and that's it. And if my arm's broken, I wouldn't just be well, I'm just going to ignore it and pretend it's not there, or breathe through it. You know what I would go to the doctor and get my arm fixed. So I'm my brain's broken. I'll go to the doctor and do that. But 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, people were.
It's always evolving. And that's what's nice, is that it's getting better with each year that goes by. And I really am grateful for that, and happy to be a part of that as well. And I think as far as being more public about it, the other thing that helped me was, I remember I was taking an acting class here in LA at Leslie Kahn, and they were talking about good actor thoughts versus bad actor thoughts. And one of my main bad thoughts that I had about myself was that my anxiety was holding me back from my success. And I used to really believe that. And so what you're supposed to do is turn it around and okay, what is the exact opposite of that thought? And that was really hard for me to figure out. I had to talk to the people in my group that I was working with and kind of brainstorm.
Mm-hmm.
So I was well, I can't just say I'm going to cure my anxiety and be successful, because that's just not I already know myself well enough to know that this is just kind of part of the fabric of who I am. It's not going to go away. I'm going to be successful with it. Right. Okay. I'm going to be successful because of it. Is that crazy? Oh, maybe I could be successful in acting and filmmaking and entertainment, and then I can be an inspiration for other people who are struggling with this. And that really lit a fire in my belly, and that was what really led to me being more open as well, was that if I can, like you said, if I can help other people, then it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then
So
I got to listen to a couple of your episodes, and you're doing that. Like, you're interviewing people that are willing to talk about this stuff. You're talking about your own journey. That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say this, the title of the podcast, because a lot of people ask about it. It actually comes from where, like, crying behind sunglasses basically is that, at the end of a therapy session and before times when we would do them in person, and the therapist would be like, okay, well, that's our time. And usually if it's a tough session, you might be on the verge of tears or in the middle of sobbing, and you just have to leave.
Yeah.
And then you got to walk back to your car.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be crying, and I would always make sure to put on giant sunglasses so I could walk back to my car, and people wouldn't look at me like I was a total crazy person. And then I would cry alone in my car. So that's kind of where the name came from. And also, I think the other meaning is that we all put on these facades, either whether it's in real life or online, but everyone is struggling. Everyone has their own battle that they're fighting. And to pretend that just because someone's life looks great online means that everything is perfect for them, it's just not true. So
yeah. I love that. I want to ask you what you ask everybody on your podcast.
Yes.
Mental health check day. How are you feeling today?
How am I feeling today? I'm feeling good. I'm feeling really good. I have these 12 baby ducks and their mama duck who are living in my yard. They've been here for a little over a week, and I have managed to keep all 12 of the baby ducks alive.
They're all alive. The dad came back to visit. I follow her on Instagram. She does a story about them every day, and it's amazing. I've been following it. The dad came back, or the stepdad. We're unclear if it's their actual dad, but the male came back.
I'm calling him Duck Daddy. I mean, he is a male duck, and he was interested in coming here to visit the babies. So I'm calling him Daddy Duck. But yeah, he only came for a few minutes for a swim and then left.
Oh, he'll be back. It's going to be 90 degrees tomorrow. He'll be back.
I mean, he's got like visitation, but I'm just waiting for him to start paying child support, because honestly, like, I've spent a lot of money on the food and treats and
the ramp for the pool. Yeah.
And I gave the ducklings a ramp. PSA to any of your listeners who have a pool: if there are ducklings that show up at your pool, you need to put a ramp, because they are too small to jump out on their own and they will die.
But none of them have died because she got the ramp. So
we have the ramp, and we also blocked the filter so they can't get sucked into the filter. Everything's fine.
After you told me about that, when you were like, oh, sometimes they get sucked into the filter and then that can kill them too. I was just like, oh my God, imagine the blood. I thought about that for like 2 days after you told me that. For like 2 days, I was like, your pool doesn't come back from that. You don't come back from that. No one comes back from that if you have like a duck massacre in your pool.
No, that's going to be really rough. That you'd have to drain the pool. But yeah, I would say it's funny because overall, I'd say especially during quarantine, I've had so much time to work on my mental health. I did so much healing last year, like through just like deep childhood traumas, or working with my shadow self, as they say, because I just had that time and that space, and I had gone through a breakup. So it was that perfect time to do all that healing. And so I haven't had as many negative thoughts about myself, but you still have those things that sneak up, and it's funny because since these ducks have shown up, I haven't really had as many of those thoughts, because I don't have time to think about anything else except for, okay, I got my work, I got my podcast, I got these ducks.
I gotta take care of the ducks. I don't have time to look at myself in the mirror and think of negative shit. I gotta take care of the ducks.
Yeah. So it's kind of like when I tell people to get a dog or get an animal, because it really helps to take your mind off of yourself. Imagine that times 12.
Get some ducks. Yeah. Get 12 baby ducklings. I love that. Yeah. All right. So I have two segments and then we'll wrap it up. But I have one that I bring up. I think guys, I can't tell a lie. I already told her about this a couple of days ago. So I'm not going to my other guests are like, oh, okay. But we already sort of went through it. So,
and I've listened to the pod, so I know it's coming. It's fine. But I didn't tell you what my answer would be. So there is still an element of surprise.
Yes. I made sure. I was like, I don't want to know the answer. And you guys know what we're going to talk about right now. We're doing the poop scoop. So tell me, have you ever pooped your pants?
I'm so sorry to say I have not.
That's a lie. It's either a lie or your time is coming. Sorry. I got really intense. I got so intense.
I have peed my pants a lot. I don't know if that counts as being on par with it. It's not as bad of a cleanup process, but I remember for some reason when I was younger, like especially I have all these memories, like when I was in elementary school, we would wear those pleated skirts, and
Uh-huh.
I don't know why, like around 5th or 6th grade, I had bad bladder control, I guess. And like, if I would laugh too hard with my friends, I would pee myself. And then I was wearing a skirt. So it would run down my legs.
So much easier. I literally was just talking about this on my solo one 2 days ago podcast. I peed my pants all the time in 7th grade from laughing so hard. Yeah. Like all the time. Yeah.
And but the good part was if you were wearing a skirt, you could hide it. So I would pee my pants and then I would just hope that no one saw. I would run to the bathroom, clean myself up, and no one would really know because there wasn't a wet spot on my skirt.
Yeah, because the type of material would dry quickly, right?
Right.
Is that one?
No, but also if you're standing up, it's not, the pee isn't really fabric.
Yeah, we never did that. We would sit down, try not to pee our pants, but we were always wearing pants. And then it was like, later we were talking about it. I was like, why don't you just bring extra pants to school if you were doing it that much? And it was like, I think if we brought pants to school, it would be admitting we had a problem. And we didn't want to admit that we peed our pants all the time.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
But pee. Lots of pee in your pants.
Yeah,
what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Bringing an extra pair of underwear to school or whatever, that would be admitting that I had a bladder control issue. And I didn't want to admit that. I just, every time would be like, oh, I guess this is a fluke, even though it definitely happens a lot.
I had two best friends and once a day, one of us would pee our pants from laughing so hard. That's how often it happened. And now as an adult, I'm like, man, I don't think a lot of people got to laugh as hard as we did. And you weren't cool either. So maybe this is like a not cool people thing that we got to laugh that hard.
They were restraining themselves, Yeah.
Well, yeah, I can't imagine being popular back then and having to just all the crap you have to go through. I just brought my dolls to school and peed my pants all the time. And I turned out okay.
And I also thought I was really good at doing makeup. This is the thing that pisses me off also about kids in junior high and high school today. They do not have an awkward face. They have YouTube and Instagram makeup tutorials and skincare routines. And so they all know how to do it. For me, I was like, oh yeah, this frosted periwinkle eyeshadow, I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it all the way from my lashes up to my eyebrow, full on. Yeah. And that's my look. And I love it.
But you know what though? I think that's the times. And also we don't know what they're going to look back on. You know what I mean? I think we were also grew up in the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, right? Yeah. So that was cool then. And now we look back on it and it's that wasn't very cool then. But there's got to be something that they are going to, now they're just discovering skirts. I found out recently that.
Oh, they didn't know that skirts were a thing?
Oh, there's a TikTok where a young girl shows her shorts and then her skirt. She has a skirt and then she lifts it up and she goes, and it's shorts. And then there's a guy who's like, oh my God, I'm so old. There are people that don't know what skirts are. Yeah, that's so all right, I'll accept pee pants. I've yet to have a guest who's pooped their pants before. And now I'm beginning to, yeah, I mean, to be fair, you're my third guest. So that the guest thing's new. My first guest, we're crying about his mom. It's a really intense conversation. We're old friends and he never likes my bathroom talk, right? He's always no. So I asked him, he's like, I was like, I didn't want to tell you about the poop scoop because I knew that you wouldn't want to do it, but he hasn't. Savannah was like, yeah, I guess when I was a kid. And I'm like, come on. I have a theory that everybody has pooped their pants or their time is coming. At some point in your adult life, you will poop your pants.
Okay. Well, you know what? I will take that as a warning. And also, if I meet anybody who does tell me that they have pooped their pants, I will be sure to send them your way.
Please. And also, third favor, when you do poop your pants, not if, when you poop your pants, you are to call me immediately.
Oh, yeah. No, I will. I will call you. We will talk about it. You can record it and put it on the pod. I mean,
yes.
I hope it doesn't happen, but if it does, you
it will.
First to know.
There is nothing I am more confident in my life than that everybody will poop their pants. Everybody. I have a friend who, if I say too much about her, everybody that knows me will know who it is.
Okay.
Who has been very adamant that I am dead wrong. No one, not everybody poops their pants just because I've pooped my pants a few times. Not everybody.
Right.
3 days ago, she called me and she goes, well, I pooped my pants. Are you happy? I was like,
did you put a curse on her?
I don't know. I had another friend who said that I had another friend years ago who said she'd never pooped her pants before until I started telling jokes about it on stage. But she also said this. She goes, I mean, after I found out how common it is, I started to sort of take the gamble. Like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you feel like you might have to fart or a poop and you're not sure. So you don't gamble. But now that I know so many people poop their pants, I gamble. And I've pooped my pants several times and it's because of you. And I'm like, I don't think that's what I was trying to convey at all. What? And she was like, and then she goes, quote, it's usually like a 1 or 2 Taco Bell napkin situation. It's not that big of a deal. Right? The whole thing. She's not really my friend anymore. When we're off air, I think you know who she is. But I won't say her name on here because that's shitty. But that's all right. So you'll call. But, oh, yeah, I do that sometimes and I don't even realize until someone. All right, last question. Yes. Not last. That's a lie. I'm going to have 2 more. But one.
Ask away.
I have a segment. You've listened to it. I like to ask you why you're one lucky broad. I want you to say, I'm one lucky broad, and then tell me something you're grateful for.
I am one lucky broad because I've got a cute dog, 2 cute cats, and 12 cute ducklings.
14 ducks, technically.
I guess, yes. But I'm a lucky broad because I'm Snow White.
You're fucking Snow White. You're fucking Snow White. You're right. You're one lucky broad because you're Snow White. Oh my God, I love that so much. I love that. I can't wait. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me and for also coming on my show. I am going to have you on my podcast the same week this is coming out. So
sweet. We'll be swapping really stories and all that stuff. Well, tell me we'll tell my listeners, not me too, I guess, where we can find you, where you want us to follow you, when your podcasts come out, all that. Give me all your information.
So,
address included. Just kidding.
At Katy Dolle, that's KatyDolle. Mostly on Instagram. I'm very active on there, but also, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And the podcast is at Crying Behind Pod. You can find the podcast Crying Behind Sunglasses basically anywhere that you listen to podcasts. I like to say it's a mental health podcast for cool people. I'm clearly not a therapist or a doctor, but I like to kind of interview people about those issues and destigmatize stuff and also find a way to laugh about it. It's very similar to this kind of what we're doing here, I think.
Yeah. So if you like this, you'll like hers too.
Yeah. And I guess that's about it. I mean, the other thing I've been doing, which has been fun on Clubhouse, is on Thursdays at 8:00, I've been doing like an open room. We'll see how long that goes on for, but it's been great. It's called Thoughtful Thursdays. So, but mainly just find me on Instagram at Katy Dolle. It'll show you all my stuff that's going on.
You were following, you get to watch the ducks too. That's like my favorite news story every day is I get to see, and the cats watch the ducks. And that's also my favorite thing.
Oh, good.
Like you get to see the barrage of animals she has stare at each other between glass. They don't.
If people are listening to this in the future, I will say right now it is April, late April 2020. I will say these ducks will probably be gone by the middle to the end of May. So catch it while you can. Once they learn how to fly.
Oh, yeah, because they'll leave soon.
They're gone.
They'll fly away. They'll fly away. All right, everybody. Well, thank you, Katy. Thank you for being on the show. Give us a listen. Give her podcast a listen. And if you get a minute, rate, review, share, all that good stuff. I'm at Kim Kral on everything. And we'll see you soon. Bye.
Space,